over a several year period, brought in a little over 200 elk. And, our best estimate of where we are now is, 450 or so animals. Some of our cooperative work with University of Tennessee, looking at our elk population and doing DNA work where you go get elk scat and you uniquely identify all these animals and you develop these population estimates from it. It kind of shows that, we're slowly growing. And I joked with some of the grad students, we advertise this as an elk project, come work with elk. And a lot of time they're just picking up poop.
We have an agency now and a lot of partners that care about conservation and bringing these animals back.
Just a huge group effort to make this happen. And it's been a great success story for sure.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching and for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're still at the Elk Tower. It's been a great group of shows here, and this is the prime time, Matt. We are at the tower, the new tower, which is an awesome place to be, and we've seen elk running around. Isn't that awesome?
Yes, the fall in East Tennessee, it's hard to beat. Weather is crisp, the football is in the air, hunting season is here, muzzleloader right around the corner, and we are here to talk elk.
Yeah.
Tennessee elk.
Yeah, I'm excited. Mr. Brad Miller, Dr. Brad Miller, is in the house, or we're on his territory here today. But he is our elk program coordinator, and he's going to get us up to date on all things elk, what's happening here in Tennessee, how the hunts went, some of the studies and things that are going on. So I'm excited to jump into some of this. But you know what? Let's do a quick reminder. TNWildlife.org is a great place to check out everything outdoors, hunting and fishing. And then you get your license out there at GoOutdoorsTennessee.com. If you want to shop some of the swag, shop.GoOutdoorsTennessee.com is the place to get all that. But I just wanted to share that with you guys, and we just appreciate you all following us and checking out our resources there on our website. Follow this show, like us, share us, and help us get the word out, because it's going to be a lot of good information.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Next Door. What else we on?
That's about covers it,
yeah,
I think.
That's
but
enough, isn't it?
That's enough. In our website, TNWildlife.org. If you can't find it in one of those spots,
you can't find it.
I can't find it. But anyway, here we are. Dr. Brad Miller, tell us a little bit about yourself, Brad. You've been on WildCast before. We've been in the old tower. We shot a show in the old tower with you. Now we got the new one behind us, and but just share with folks who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I've been with the agency about 7 years now. It's my 7th elk season, working elk season. From East Tennessee. Grew up hunting North Cumberland.
Awesome.
Called it Royal Blue back then.
Yeah.
And I've been doing the wildlife thing for quite a few years. Like you mentioned, been bouncing around doing some different educational opportunities. I've been at the University of Georgia, and hate to bring that up. They're coming up here real soon. But then I did my bachelor's and my master's at UT. And
all have sinned and fall short. Have been redeemed.
But
you still bleed orange, right?
Oh, for sure. But kind of a deer guy by trade. That was a lot of my research back in the past. But really, it's kind of a homecoming for me to get back to this part of the world and work with elk. When I was working on my master's, I actually helped with the elk project when they were just bringing them in back in 2001.
Okay.
So it's kind of neat to make that full circle and get back here and really get your hands wet and just work with them all the time.
Where'd you get your doctorate?
It was at UGA. It was looking
went back to the dark side.
Well, it was looking at some deer genetic stuff, some social behavior stuff, and some herbivory stuff, and management of deer to kind of avoid excessive herbivory where you get these compositional changes in the forest. But anyway, left there and started working in Arkansas as the deer biologist out there, and worked for the Turkey Federation for a little while back in East Tennessee, trying to make my way back home. And been on here 7 years or so, and a lot of changes in the elk program in the last 7 or so years. We've been hunting them since '09, but our number of permits have steadily increased. And I was looking at the numbers earlier, and we've taken 95 elk. Hunters have taken 95 elk so far.
Wow. And we're still seeing a steady increase in numbers of population as we've seen, as we study them, and
sure,
and that's cool. That's cool to see that you can have a huntable population in Tennessee now.
Yeah, slowly growing. Some of our cooperative work with University of Tennessee, looking at our elk population and doing DNA work, where you go get elk scat and you uniquely identify all these animals and you develop these population estimates from it. It kind of shows that we're slowly growing, and our public land right here in the middle of the elk zone is where we have a lot of elk, and we're really trying to grow this area and provide more hunting opportunities. And it's a great program that's moving forward.
Yeah, awesome.
So define scat for those who aren't wildlife majors.
Droppings.
Did he say scat?
The poo.
Yeah.
Somebody has to collect the elk poo.
It's funny. I
analyze it.
I joked with some of the grad students. We advertise this as an elk project. Come work with elk, and a lot of time they're just picking up poop.
It's a real crappy job.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some maybe some crappy sides to some jobs. You got to deal with
working with wildlife.
Yeah, still working with wildlife, getting that experience that one day they'll be out here doing exactly what you're doing, some of the same work.
When they get done, they really know their crap.
He's on fire.
We could be here all day. But so you mentioned a little bit about the history of the elk program, but so it's cool that you got to be part of the early reintroductions as a student.
Yeah.
So talk about how we've come from 2000 we started reintroducing.
Right. Yeah. So it was over a several year period. Brought in a little over 200 elk, and our best estimate of where we are now is 450 or so animals. We have our elk restoration zone, which is where we said we're going to keep our elk, put our elk. It's a 5-county area, 700,000 acres give or take. So it's a really big area, but again, right in the middle of it is our North Cumberland WMA, which is roughly 200,000 acres.
Yeah, and so it was 9 years before we hunted them, so they lived here and adapted and changed and reproduced and.
Yeah, slowly growing, and as I mentioned, we started pretty small with just a handful of permits, 5 permits or so, and then over time we've expanded that, added an archery season, and overall increased the number of permits.
Which is a challenge, archery, yeah.
I tell you, our success in East Tennessee rivals just about anywhere.
Awesome.
This year, our gun hunters went 7 for 7.
Whoa!
Our youth hunter was successful. Our archery hunters, there were 7 of them, they killed 4 bulls, and 2 of the unsuccessful hunters missed. So almost everybody had an opportunity.
Wow, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, really good. And I think the weather really helped us this year. There was that cool spell that came in, and I think the elk were really moving.
So have they been bugling a lot this year? Did the hunters get to experience that any at all?
Yeah, that was something I was going to mention. We mentioned research earlier. Last fall, prior to bugling, we put out these devices called acoustic recorders, and imagine a trail camera that listens instead of takes pictures. So we had these deployed across the elk zone, and they're just out there listening. And we were able to look at what time of day elk bugle, how many times per day, and then the seasonality of when it really peaks. And it looks like the end of September is when it really peaks, and then it tails off after that. So, if you were to come up here and visit the tower, you might hear a bugle, but really that last week of September, first week of October is really the peak when they're talking a lot.
Wow, I was hoping we'd be up here about the time, trying to set these shows up. Yeah, and
a
little bit late, but it's good to know that you can come experience the fall colors and experience them bugling up here in early October.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
A lot of bulls up here.
Yeah. And just so people know, we've mentioned it before, but this population is not hunted. This is not a hunting area up here at the Knob. This is solely for viewing, right?
Sure.
How big is the closed hunting zone, safety zone up here for them?
Okay. Here's where it starts getting a little tricky.
Put it on the spot.
This field itself is about 35 acres, and we have a safety zone around this area. that keeps, all hunting away, whether it's, deer, duck, turkey, dove, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't hunt. But this unit, the Sunquist unit, currently we don't elk hunt in this unit. And it's a big unit. It's, I'll get it wrong, but it's like 40,000 acres, give or take. That's something we're looking into. We've been deploying some cameras, trying to get a handle on how many bulls we have available that are not right around here, but in other places where we could have some future opportunities. So, that to be continued.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, you touched on the hunting seasons a little bit, but it sounds like a lot of them were successful this year. Remind folks that it's bull only, right? The hunts
Sure.
are bull only. So did we have any big bulls killed? Was there any state record set this year?
No giants this year. We had a nice 300-inch bull taken off of one of the Ed Carter units zones, and a lot of just good, healthy, tasty, tasty elk. Yeah. Guys are just so excited, and it's really neat for me to get to meet these hunters, and their fathers and their sons and their best friends are coming with them, and they're all enjoying this and having this great experience together. It's really neat to see, and folks, they're so thankful to the agency for having this program.
Yeah, I could see that. That's awesome. So if folks do get drawn, they're able to bring some folks with them, right?
You got to bring folks. Yeah, especially if you're archery hunting, just to make it easier to call in a bull. You can have somebody set up behind you doing the calling, get them in close enough to where you can get a shot. They're not looking at you, kind of like you would do turkey hunting with a buddy.
Yeah.
But also, once an elk hits the ground, I send out an info packet to all the people that get drawn, and one of my lines in it is, think horse, not deer, because you're looking at a 500 to 700 pound animal.
You
don't drag them. No,
take
no.
off with it. Huh?
So if it falls down in a deep dark holler, you better have some friends and some backpacks and know how to quarter up an animal.
Yeah. So you can do that. You can quarter one out here.
Sure. Yeah. And we had some this year that they were just inaccessible any other way.
Wow.
I remember the first elk hunt back 2009. We had pack horses and all kinds of fun stuff in case we needed them,
Sure.
And they even packed one out just because they wanted to have the experience, a full out west kind of hunt,
Yeah. But definitely, folks, bring their friends and their family, and they make it, just a great event. And it's not necessarily once in a lifetime. Once somebody's drawn, they do have a 10-year period where they can't be drawn again. So the chances of it happening again are not great, but you never know.
Yeah.
Well, especially with the raffle now, you could be the lucky winner of one of 10 prizes. And this year actually, somebody picked the Ford truck first pick. So, you may be the lucky one to get to pick the elk hunt if that's your dream, if you win that raffle. And chances are a lot better at winning that than winning the lottery. I know that.
I'll have to keep putting my name in for a regular tag. For some reason they won't let us win the the conservation raffle. But anyway, that's pretty cool. There's opportunities. There's ways to have an opportunity to chase one of these guys out here.
Talk about the history of the elk program in general, because we were talking off air about the last known elk in the entire state of Tennessee prior to the year 2000 was killed in 1865,
right,
in Obion County,
right,
which is way out west, right?
Right.
So that's a long period with no elk on the ground in this state. So how did we get to the point where we were bringing these giant animals back and restocking them?
Yeah, I think probably Kentucky beat us to the punch by a couple of years as one of the first kind of southeastern almost states to really to go down this road. And they brought in a lot of elk. They brought in a couple of thousand elk, and their population's really expanded. I think they have a 15 or maybe 16 county elk zone or elk restoration area. So we followed a couple of years after them. And then North Carolina over on the state line, they also kind of followed right after these North Cumberland animals. And since then, West Virginia and Virginia, everybody's
on the bandwagon.
Sure. Yeah. It's really neat just to see these animals. People probably don't understand just how big they are until they get up here and really Well, earlier we had a cow walk by, 30 or 40 yards away, and I mean they're big.
They catch your eye.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know until y'all were darting them up here a few years back and had one on the ground, and I got to get up beside that thing, and it's a massive creature, man.
They're big.
Blew my mind. I'd only been around white-tailed deer for the most part. So giant animals, and I don't want to go down this rabbit trail too far, but elk, bison, red wolves, mountain lions, and almost black bear, all those animals were extirpated from this state at one time in the late 1800s, early 1900s, because we didn't have regulation and protection of them, and just over harvest, land use changes, whatever you want to blame it on. But we have an agency now and a lot of partners that care about conservation and bringing these animals back. I don't think we have a bison restoration program in plans, but it's just it's fascinating. Cool? Yeah, it would, but I don't think we're ever going to get bison back. But just it takes a lot to put that animal back on the landscape and make it work. So
sure, and there's been if I tried to list all the partners, I would leave somebody out, but it's just a huge group effort to make this happen, and it's been a great success story for sure.
Yeah. We talking with Terry Lewis about his help on the property and the way he helped get this tower back and get it, I guess, here. Period. But if you look at the kiosks here at the tower, you see all the partners on the signs and those who have helped bring them back and make things like this happen. So it's a partnership for sure.
One question I get asked is, you mentioned that Kentucky stocked thousands of elk, literally, and we stocked a little over 200. Why were we limited to just only stocking a handful?
Right, so Kentucky was able to go out in the western U.S. and get elk from a couple of different states. We went a different route. All of our elk came either directly or indirectly from Elk Island, which is a captive herd in Alberta. So this was a captive facility that had a long history of testing for a whole variety of stuff with negative results. So we felt like this would be the safest source population you could find. So we had elk come from Alberta from that facility, but also Land Between the Lakes, their facility, and their original source was also the Elk Island animals. So that's what we have is Elk Island animals. Okay.
And LBL, roughly how many are there? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really work with those guys.
They got buffalo or bison.
They
there
do,
too, right?
and it's it's an enclosure.
Yeah.
There. Okay. Yeah.
But that was why that we knew they were tested and they were safe to bring here.
Sure.
And we hope to keep that safe here as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, with CWD creeping across West Tennessee, you pray and hope it doesn't make it over here. But one thing on hunting seasons, I wanted to double check, and I think I know the answer to this, but is there any hunting off the restoration zones?
Yes, a couple of years ago. So when we brought elk in, we said, hey, we have this restoration zone. This is where we want our elk. We feel like they're compatible with all the landowners and just, acceptance. And we said we're not going to have any elk anywhere else.
Right.
So a couple of years ago, we created this incidental take option where if somebody is legally deer hunting in Cocke County or Union County or Overton County, whatever, and
outside of an area.
Outside of our 5 elk counties. If they're outside of our 5 elk counties and they're legally deer hunting and they see an elk, they can take 1 elk a year.
Do they have to report it?
Check it, so and there's a phone number in the guidebook that says call and I'll come meet them somewhere and I'll do what I need to do. But it's mandatory carcass checking.
Do you have many that are killed outside the zone?
No. So we've had it. This will be our 3rd fall and we've had 1.
Only 1.
Yeah.
So they're not venturing outside of the zone too much, or if they are, people are tolerant of them and
they like to watch them rather than kill them or something. Yeah.
And this one was an elk that had come over from North Carolina.
Okay, wasn't even a Tennessee elk.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of the point, is we're trying to prevent issues.
Let me ask you this: are the elk populations from Kentucky and North Carolina and our elk, are they interbreeding with one another, or are they pretty much doing their own thing?
Not North Carolina. So we're
far enough away.
For sure. Well, I never say for sure, but probably far enough away. And we have So I mentioned some of the research we did with University of Tennessee collecting scat samples, and we're able to take those and actually determine the origin of that animal's ancestry, kind of like that ancestry DNA thing. We were able to see whether they're from Elk Island or they're Kentucky elk, and we've seen a little bit of mixture.
Okay.
Yeah, so we definitely have Kentucky elk. We've had a couple of tagged bulls that were tagged in Kentucky harvested.
Is that
the
good?
past couple of years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
For genetic diversity, is it good? To,
Probably not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat.
it is neat.
Yeah, and we've had a few questions on the elk, incidental take of elk, you know, so that's why I asked, because I think some people get confused on that incidental take, what that means, you know, so I think we covered that.
You got to be outside the 5 elk counties.
Yeah, outside the counties, and then, you're allowed to take one if it happens and you want to, so.
A lot of people they see that and they think that's too good to be true.
Yeah.
It's a setup. They don't want to believe it. Like it is, you know. And I think a lot of people are maybe afraid to shoot them for what will other people think or whatever the reason is. But that's an awesome opportunity if you happen to be outside the zone.
If I had the opportunity, I knew I was right. I was in the right.
Yeah.
I'd have to take it. I think it'd be neat. All right.
Tastes really good.
Tastes real
like
good.
Brad said.
Be calling all my buddies, so got something to drag out. All right. So you touched on some of the studies that you're doing. Anything past studies you want to cover? And then I got a question about future studies.
Oh, golly. So we've got some publications that are coming out right now, and we'll try to get some links to some of that stuff put on the website. We have an elk page on our website that's got a lot of information. It's got our strategic elk plan that talks about a lot of the history, where we were and then where we're going. And then it's got some different documents. We did a stakeholder analysis 4 years ago, looking at residents in this part of the world and what they think about elk, and it also had an economic analysis, and it's amazing just the economic benefit of having elk in Tennessee to the tune of millions of dollars. But you know, rather than getting in the weeds, we've looked at what elk eat, we've looked at relatedness, we've looked at diversity, and then tried to get some population estimates, as well as looking at, you know, mortality causes, where elk live and move and that sort of thing. So it's just kind of a whole gamut of general elk biology stuff. And, you know, it's something we started about 4 years ago. And that's the first research we've had since really the elk were turned out in 2000. You know, we had about 3 or 4 years of research and then, you know, a bit of a lag, and we've picked that back up. And, you know, and you mentioned upcoming, we're, you know, one component we're missing is really looking at our calf survival. We don't have good evidence of if there's much mortality there, and if there is, what's the source. So we'll be catching some cows in January, February. We'll have a crew come in. If all goes according to plan, we'll have a crew come in from South Africa with helicopters, and they shoot nets on them, and they do their thing, and we immobilize them. And
wow.
Anyway, it'll be a really neat project. I have to have you guys come up and get some video. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Because that's really the thing we're missing. We kind of know what our pregnancy rates are. We know about survival of adults. It's just the calf component that we haven't really captured yet.
So once that net wraps them up and you're able to get there to it, what's the process? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely insane.
Sounds like something in a movie now.
Well, so this company, they'll be in a helicopter, and they'll have a guy fire a net on an elk. It gets all tangled up, and they have guys that they call muggers that jump out of the helicopter and go hobble elk. And I'm
like a cowboy,
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing it. I promise you that. But then they'll bring it back, and we'll put it on a big flatbed trailer, and we'll work them up. But yeah, it'll be quite the rodeo.
So they just pick it up by the helicopter. And
yeah. I've got some.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. I thought you were going to go to it.
No, it'll be slung up in a cargo net, and they'll fly it to us.
Wow, yeah, we're coming up for that.
That's a drop the tailgate for sure. That's a WildCast. Drop the tailgate. That's everything. Yeah. So that's cool, and then you'll be able to. I think you mentioned put transmitters in them and track them and know, and then be able to find their young, and that's the ultimate goal.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a special transmitter that lets us know when and where a calf is born, and we go find that calf within, hopefully, 6 hours of being born. and we'll put a special expandable collar on them, and we'll be able to track them for 12 months or so.
Wow. Isn't it cool the work these guys do?
It is.
I'd love to see all that, so make sure I get a call.
Yeah. Hopefully all goes according to plan.
Yeah, that's neat. You know, and knowing all that information that's you need to know that. You got to have that data so you can know what the next steps are.
Yeah. You know, anytime, not to get in the weeds too much, but, you know, you hear people talk about population models, and your model is only as good as the data you use to create it. Mm-hmm. And if you're guessing on things, yeah, that's no way to roll. So we'll have some really good info that will hopefully help guide some of our management.
Yeah. And you mentioned collars. Is collars the only way, other than the transmitter you talked about, but there's collars? How else do you track these animals? I mean, you had the sound cameras
recorders.
Or whatever recorders.
Yeah.
Is that pretty much how you...
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know where an elk goes, you know, get a collar around its neck.
Yeah.
It's really different nowadays than, you know, when I was first doing research and stuff, where you had to go out with the antennas, and I'm a little bit deaf in my left ear from it. I promise, it's crazy.
Wow, the beeping,
But nowadays you can sit in the office and it's GPS collars, and it just flies to a satellite, and you'll know where
real time.
Yes. Well, I mean, you can't exactly say, okay, let me look up collar such and such and go figure out where he is right now. It's one or two locations a day. The more locations the collar takes, the more battery it uses. So it just depends on how long you want your batteries to last for, as the number of locations per day you're shooting for.
Sure, and every second of that elk's life's not as important as every day, maybe, of its movements.
You kind of rotate it throughout the day, and you're able to see, you know, a home range, seasonal and annual home ranges.
Man, tell me, these things, they look to me like cattle. They graze all the time. Is that primarily what they eat up here, or have they adapted to acorns and other things?
Definitely eat acorns. We see a lot of bulls killed in the fall, and we'll just open up their stomachs and just check it out, and there'll be, you know, tons of crunched up acorns in there. It varies throughout the year. Late winter, it's a lot more grassy stuff that's still green. Autumn olive, Japanese honeysuckle. Shifting in the spring, you get more forbs, you know, broadleaf weeds that they'll really consume those, and then a lot of you know, twig tips and you know, woody plants, and then into October, you know, September, October, a lot of acorns consumed. So it just varies throughout the year, but they're kind of generalists. They'll take advantage of a lot of different opportunities.
Kind of like a deer, they just adapt to whatever's available at that time to feed on.
Yeah.
What gets them through the winter? Just the fat they put on in the fall?
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't really have to worry about animals starving to death in the winter. You know, that's this lipogenesis. That's what they're doing in the fall, is putting on weight that'll get them through the winter. But they'll find things to browse on for sure.
Yeah. Well, this has been very informative. I appreciate you meeting us out here and letting us come to your space and take the time out of your day for this beautiful spot.
Gosh.
I mean, the light, the sun's coming through across the field and through the trees, and I'm like, man, this is beautiful. Thank God for this area and the beauty around us. And October is a good time to be out here. November, come see the colors, come see the elk, check out the new tower. Brad, thank you for what you do for the Elk program and all the hard work. And Matt, thanks for keeping us up to date here in East Tennessee, sharing the information, making sure everybody's informed. This is Tennessee WildCast. We appreciate you tuning into this series here at the Elk Tower. Check out our other shows that we've had out there, and keep coming back, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.